Right. Hello. Thank you all so much for joining this virtual faculty office hours for Film and Media Studies. My name is Grant Sewell. I use he, him pronouns, Associate Dean of Admission in the Office of Admission, and really glad to have you all here to learn a little bit more about the program, but read in general as well. Just to give you a little bit of a flow of what we hope to be able to do, I'll turn it over to our colleagues here who have joined us to share more information in just a minute for some introductions. They might talk a little bit about the program for a little bit. They might share more information that way about the major, opportunities to study in the space, community impact that the program has. And then, we're also mindful that you might have questions as well. And so the Zoom chat box could be a good place to ask those questions. And with the time that we have, we will be mindful to answer as many questions as we possibly can. I know we're joined by two of our wonderful faculty members and a current student who are with us today and are making some time. And so I will turn it over to them. I know we're joined by Monica, Catherine, and also Mar, and I'm really glad that they're with us today. And so maybe to start things off, I'll turn it over to Monica to start us.
Okay, so do you want us to introduce ourselves first, or yes? I'm Mónica López Lerma, and I'm a professor in the Spanish department, and I also teach in the comparative literature program and in the film and media studies program. And I'm the current chair of the film and media studies program.
I'm Catherine Witt. I teach in the French department. I also am chair of the history and literature department, and I teach in film and media studies. And my research focuses mainly on 19th century early cinema, as well as documentary film from the 70s.
I'm Mar. I'm a sophomore here at Reed, and I'm a film and media studies major.
So I think I'm going to explain a little bit the major of it. And one of the great things at Reed, I think, is that we have the opportunity, or students have the opportunity, to do a minor or a major in film and media studies. And we have offered the minor for a few years now, but we just launched the film and media studies major, the program, last fall. So we are very excited about the new program, and we are very happy to have it. I would say that something that characterizes the film and media studies program at Reed is that it is very interdisciplinary. And I'm going to try to explain what I mean by this while I explain the major requirements. I have a link that I would like to show you while I explain the requirements to provide a visual. I think it's going to be easier to follow me. So I'm going to try to share the Film and Media Studies website. It's a wonderful website. If once we share it, you will see that you have information about the minor, the major, the events. Also, you have the information about the faculty that are teaching the film and media classes at Reed, and so you have more or less information about our own research and our publications and the kind of classes that we teach. And also you will have the links to the different film and media courses. So yeah, if you can go to academic overview, and then here we have the major requirements. Okay, thank you. And then tick major requirements. Okay, so you can just move it a little bit. So for the major, students have to complete in between 13 and 17 units, and depending on language proficiency, that is something that maybe we can explain later. And you have, as a major, to complete 2 of the core courses that we offer, and these 3 courses are Introduction to Film Studies, Introduction to Film Theory, and Introduction to Media Studies. If you can just move a little bit so they can see the course clerk. Thank you. And with the core courses, students have the chance to examine the aesthetic, historical, theoretical, and technological dimensions of different media. And this includes not only film and digital media, but also photography and even video games. Usually I teach Introduction to Film Theory. and I can provide you an example of what I do in my class. More or less, just being brief, we examine a variety of theoretical frameworks to gain insight into the different ways that the scholars have approached the cinematic medium. And these theories include psychoanalysis, digital cinema, feminist film theory, genre theory, among many others. And by engaging with these theories, students gain a deeper understanding of how films reflect and in many cases shape cultural values or power dynamics and social structures. And in my class in film theory, it's very important to talk about theory. It's a key component, but it's very important for me too that students reflect in their own personal experiences, viewing experiences, helping them to develop the right vocabulary and analytical skills to dissect how these experiences are created or are shaped. And I can provide you a particular example. If, for instance, if we analyze representations of violence, we explore how certain forms of violence are normalized or deemed justified, while others are perceived as excessive or illegitimate. I'm sure that many of you have watched The Matrix. And if, for instance, you look at The Matrix, many people are being killed in the film. And we as viewers, we can identify with the protagonist. While they are killing many people, maybe we feel indifferent to the killings, or we justify the killings from the point of view of the protagonist. We don't question the killings that are being made. But if someone kills the protagonist, for instance, then is when we start trying to justify the killing of the protagonist and question the legitimacy of the killing. So what we do in class is to really identify the different cinematic strategies, and that can be camera angle, sound design, narrative structure, editing, that make us feel that way, and to identify with one character or with the other. Or, for instance, to feel empathy for the victims, or even justify the perpetrators. So this is more or less one example of how to approach film from different cinematic strategies, or the theoretical framework that really helps to articulate how film does that. In terms of the course, something that I would like also to remark about the core courses is that we don't require students to take the core courses in a particular order, but we really encourage them to take two of these core courses early and in their studies, because it's very important when you are a junior and you have to declare the major that you have taken all these courses, and the qual exam, which is something that you do in order to be able to do the thesis, and we will talk about that later too. The qual exam focuses in one of the questions on the materials that you have discussed in one of these core courses. Any questions so far? And it's a lot of information, but more or less these are the three courses that are required for everyone. And all the
Monica, just
yes?
a practical consideration for students who are listening in. All majors at Reed are declared around the end of your sophomore year, when you've completed 15 units of coursework. So by that point, you meet with either your current advisor, academic advisor, or with the advisor, an advisor in your major, in your future major, and you fill out some paperwork. But advising at Reed is very, very high touch. You meet regularly with your advisor from the day you arrive at Reed to the very end when you're submitting your thesis. So a lot of students have concerns about how difficult it is to declare majors, to work through the administrative hoops, and really, like, the advisor, your academic advisor, is not a staff member, it's a professor, and we get to know you really, really well. So you're fully supported throughout that stage. So it's just to add, like, that practical component.
Mark, you just declared the film and media studies majors. Can you maybe explain a little bit about filling out the forms and how was the process for you?
Um, it's a little complicated, but essentially you just get a document and you fill out your sort of 4-year plan for how you're going to be able to fit all of the necessary courses into your time at Reed in 4 years. Um, and yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. The format of it is a little strange, but overall, you basically just plan out your time at Reed and spend a lot of time on this website.
Yeah, that's great. So this is something that the first year when you arrive to Reed, you are assigned an advisor, and you will be talking to your advisor quite often, and then it will be really helpful to discuss more or less the plans that you have for different majors that you might have in mind, and to look at the requirements very early on. So you will not be left alone. You will have someone always to help you with the process. Yeah, I'm going to move just very quickly to the second of the requirements because we need to talk about the minor and many different issues. And I think this you have to also take 6 additional units, which are the elective courses. And I think what is great about this requirement is that it provides the majors a lot of flexibility and freedom to choose courses that are related to their own interests or academic goals. And you have courses from many different departments, from art, from Chinese, English, anthropology. And usually these elective courses are tagged as film and media studies in order to count towards the major. So you will see when you try to look for the courses that some of them are film and media studies courses as such, but the elective courses can be cross-listed. So as you can see here, some of them are music and Russian. So you need to look that these courses are tagged as film and media studies in order to make sure that they really count for the major. Catherine teaches an amazing course that Mar is taking now. So maybe you can explain how one of the electives will look like. If you can go to French department, is the French
it's
connection?
fine. I can describe it. I teach at the moment. I've been teaching 2 courses, sorry, focused on French and American cinema. So one is called post-war French cinema. So we're looking at basically the sort of developments of cinema from the films made during wartime in France during the occupation all the ways to the 70s. And so it's really a course that features movements such as the New Wave, the Left Bank filmmakers, so like featuring their work very prominently, as well as theoretical texts from the French tradition to illuminate our analysis of the films. And the course I'm currently teaching is called French Connections, and that is also a course that's relatively historically organized in the sense that we go back to the very origins of cinema, starting with optical devices at the end of the 19th century and looking at how the French and the Americans in particular were very invested in the race towards developing film technology. So we start with, looking at films by Edison and the team working with him in New Jersey. We're looking at films by the Lumière brothers in Lyon, as well as Georges Méliès' early fiction films. We also are really invested in this class, I think, in rethinking film history. It's been really kind of written in sort of in very ideologically strict perspectives, forgetting a lot of important filmmakers, especially women and filmmakers of color. So we try to integrate these films and these creators' works in the narrative we build together. And the film, I mean, the course covers a huge swath of time since we start in the 1880s, and our last film, I think, is from 2019. And that last session will be talking a lot about representations of migration and globalization in film and cinema, looking at, again, French and American cinemas, but really exploding the national paradigms for understanding cinema. Cinema is a profoundly transnational phenomenon. So we try to weave all of these narratives together. And yeah, Mars is in the class. It's been really fun to have Mar there, and students are really invested, both in terms of like their reflections. They write like reflections on the films for every session. I have a small group of students kind of launching the conversation through these reflections. And then we always have students presenting the film, like one student presenting the film for the session and orchestrating the conversation, which is a really kind of specifically Reed thing to do. Like the Reed conference system really promotes the sort of student-led classroom spaces. So behind the scenes, I do meet with students. I never let anybody in the lurch because some of the films we watch are, pretty obscure. I know, Mar, you were talking about underground American cinema in like starting with Maya Deren, but like that's not necessarily easy material. You were talking about Stan Brakhage. Do you want to talk about your experience of like preparing for a presentation in a film class?
Well, I was really happy that Stan Breakage and the work of Maya Deren was even like in the syllabus at all, because I was like somewhat familiar with their work and I really enjoyed it, but I've never heard it talked about really, especially not in an academic setting, I guess yet. And so I really enjoyed it. The materials that were given, like there's always a bunch of films that are made available for us by Jim Holmes, the librarian. He does a lot of good work making film accessible to us. And some really fascinating readings that connect them with what we're learning in that unit and film theory and also the history at the time. So pouring through those and getting to talk to Catherine one-on-one for like hours was really helpful for forming my presentation. Uh, and yeah, just being able to develop your own questions, you get sort of practice for that with the individual responses every couple weeks. And being able to sort of like translate this film theory and bring in your own questions and just make it a conversation. It's a really special experience. And I've done that in all of my film classes that I've taken so far, and it's always just a really good way to get a better understanding of the movie and the material and the specific time that it comes out of. I think it's a really great practice. And the whole conference setting of Reed and its classes is really beneficial for learning and just being able to ask questions and form thoughts.
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, I've never worked with such intellectually curious students. Like everybody's willing to really push their limits of viewership and reading and engagement. Everybody takes things really seriously. There's no wrong thing to say. Like some people are very experienced in the classroom. They're experienced and they've watched lots of films. They know a lot about film theories. You have also film buffs who've watched a lot, but haven't really thought about how to critically approach films. And then you have people who are just kind of like wanting to try it out for the first time. And I feel like there's a real effort to put everybody in dialogue. And I see in the chat that there's a question about opportunities to create film and media. And I think that's a really important thing we should discuss in the context of this meeting. We don't have a production component. Like we don't have a class that is dedicated to filmmaking. But in the art department, we do have a specialist in video art, and we also provide students with opportunities for film production workshops that don't count for credit. They're usually taught during the winter break. Um, so being able to learn how to use like really advanced softwares is available, but it's sparingly available. We have two ways of addressing that. Like on the one hand, we are kind of working hard to try to develop a production component to the program, but in the immediate kind of well, in the present, what we can do is encourage students to spend a semester at an institution where they can work on film productions specifically, if that's what they want to focus their attention on. So a good way to do that is through our study abroad programs. We have a lot of programs in Anglophone or non-Anglophone countries, universities that are American universities all over the world where you can work on production. A very popular place is the NYU program in Prague. So a lot of our students have gone there to work on film production. Otherwise, I think, Monica, you might want to talk about the workshops that have been available to students. And also the fact that I think for some classes, the assignments are actually involve the production of documentary films, but
Yeah,
maybe at a different level of production.
I teach a class on documentary resistance in Latin America and Spain. And although I give them the option for students to write a typical research paper, they have the option to create their own documentary, and it has been working quite well. I've been teaching this 4 years now, and I'm teaching it next year. So students create 10 minutes documentary. Of course, they have to relate the documentary to the topic of the course, and then they have to write a reflection on the process of making the documentary, and also to use the theoretical frameworks that we have discussed in class in order to combine theory and practice. But I know that other colleagues, for instance, in the anthropology department, they are also offering the opportunity to students to create short documentaries. Other colleagues are providing the chance to create podcasts. And in studio art, many students also are writing, instead of a thesis, they are making fiction films and documentaries. I have one student, one of my thesis students now is making a documentary. And the good thing is that there are internal fellowships, internal funding. For instance, she has applied to an internal fellowship and got the funding to do some trips because she wants to shoot some footage in New York, where the main protagonist of the documentary she wants to make is. So READ provides the possibility of really funding the trips for the students to be able to make the documentary. And another thing that we have been trying to do is to invite local filmmakers or well-known filmmakers to come to READ and to really provide film production workshops. In January, a local filmmaker, an ex-READ student who is doing very well and making different documentaries in Latin America, in Europe, and here in the US, came to during the Paideia week and gave a 3 hours documentary. So he talked about how to produce sound or the post-production process, editing. I think it was a great experience for students. In February, Cynthia Wade, a very well-known documentary filmmaker, came and also gave a 3 hours documentary. She talked about her documentaries, her experience as a filmmaker. It was really great. At the end of the workshop, she also gave the possibility of some of the students that attended the workshop to do some internships with her. So it was very productive in that sense. And this is something that we are planning to do in the future, more workshops, and include more courses with the practical aspects and the possibility of making documentaries or films. Also, we are now, I was in Madrid 2 weeks ago with a study abroad visit in the Autónoma and Carlos III, and most probably we will also have the chance to do the exchange program with Madrid. And Madrid, I can say that in the 2 universities offer a wonderful classes on film production that the students are also able to take if they decide to study abroad. Yeah. But Catherine, maybe you want to say something about the minors?
Yeah, the minor is very popular. The film and media studies minor is a lot more flexible than the major insofar as it just involves taking five classes that are in film and media, like tagged in film and media studies classes. And one of those fives needs to be one of our core courses. So one of the introductory courses that Monica described earlier on. So introduction to film studies or introduction to film theory or introduction to media studies. And that part of the program is very heavily based in the art department since we have a couple of scholars in the art department who are really interested in digital arts and internet art, all sorts of media theories that are, extremely cutting edge and contemporary. So, and then we have a colleague in the German department who is also a specialist of theories of mass media. I think he's offering a course on that topic next year. So, we're really covering both kind of film, photography, and media understood in a very large sense. So yeah, the minor is extremely popular. We're still trying to figure out how many people we have, but something like over 20 students are minors in the film and media studies program. And so, their area of focus is very diverse. So like we have students in psychology and doing a minor in film and media, anthropology, economics, politics, biology. So it really is, students are really interested in exploring those interdisciplinary connections, and working on a minor guarantees that you're grappling with these theories and this material with a certain amount of depth. So Reed does pretty well in balancing kind of breadth and depth in its curriculum. And the minors in a number of disciplines are extremely popular, but I'd say FMSD is a big minor.
Mhm. I think we have a question here. So can incoming students contribute to participate in designing appropriately scholarly production opportunities? Are students involved in some level in helping to shape the future of the major?
Monica, as chair of the department, do you want to take that? Or Mar, do you want to comment on how
I
you
think Mark can provide the student perspective, and I can add into it. Yeah.
I would say yes, definitely. Like since I arrived at Reed, I think this major was announced like during my convocation, so like my third day at Reed, and I was like, yeah, I would love to be part of that. And since then I've had a ton of opportunities to talk to like the chairs of the Film and Media Studies department, both Monica and also Jake Frazier, just about like the future of it, like what the requirements are going to look like, what the qual is going to look like. Um, and yeah, it's been wonderful. I think there is a lot of input from students. I will say there's no film club yet, but I hope there will be one soon. I've been meaning to start one for a while, but just always get very busy.
Yeah,
I
you should
have to say that there are many screenings organized. For instance, there are the language houses, the French, the Chinese, the Spanish house, and they organize, I think, screenings weekly. There are many professors also that organize weekly screenings that are part of their classes, or just they want to do some sort of event and discuss the film with other colleagues or students. So that's really part of the events that are taking place now. But also, for instance, we have guest speakers, many lectures that during this year we have really a full schedule of events. In terms of the club and advisory groups, I think we just launched the major. It was launched last semester, and what I can see is that the interest is increasing, and I think once the major more or less is established, then many people I think, are interested in creating groups, reading groups, uh, film and media studies club, and this is something I think it would emerge organically, and yeah, I don't.
And one topic we discussed during our meeting, because we try to get together regularly, like at least once a semester, just to figure out who's in the program and for people to create social links outside of the classroom settings. And one thing we had discussed is the possibility for students to invite a film scholar who would be particularly compelling to them. And so, Monica and I and all of my colleagues, we would just kind of be busy trying to finance that in one way, but the students would be doing the contacting, selecting the scholars, and hosting an event, potentially like a roundtable event where students would give like 10-minute presentations of research they're doing or talk about their own projects within classes, and hopefully like center around the work of the person they decided to invite. So yeah, we're very interested in student input and also just like growing also in terms of our connections with the region. I mean, Portland is an active film city. There's a lot going on here. And we're on the West Coast, so we are interested in developing ties to Los Angeles and in the forms of internships and programs and exchanges. So all of that is in the very early stages, but definitely student input is really welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and last year when I think the German department was hiring new professors, which would also be involved in film and media studies, one of my professors invited me, and she was like, "Do you want to go to lunch and like talk to these potential film and media studies professors?" And so that was a wonderful opportunity, and they're really involving students with like just shaping how we want this sort of education to be and this program to be. And also just in my experience, I've been able to, in my language classes, like suggest going to films and talking about them afterwards, which is really wonderful. Um, so yeah, professors are all very open to what their students want to learn and focus on.
Yeah, we are now planning to, we did this last semester, what we call get together in order to create a sense of community among students and faculty that are interested in the topic or are teaching or are majoring or minoring. So we are going to plan one for the end of the semester. And I think that the last semester we started seeing each other and meeting and talking about our common interest. But it's something that we would like to do every semester and then get a sense of also what the students are interested in and maybe new ideas about what to organize for next year and the kind of classes that maybe now students want to us to teach. So these gatherings are also important in that sense to really know who is involved, who is interested in the program, and maybe try to respond to those interests.
Are there any students here who want to talk about their own interest or ask questions?
Maybe as we wait to see what questions come in, I'll throw one out, perhaps to Monica and Catherine. What's maybe different about teaching at Reed, and for Mar, maybe what's it like learning as a student at Reed, if you want to offer that perspective.
Well, okay, I'll go first. Learning at Reed is very unlike any sort of environment I've been in before. And I went to a big high school and also just the high school system of like having a classroom and one person who speaks and then others answering questions. It's very different from Reed's system of this sort of like roundtable discussion of like a lot of in-depth materials for a long time. And I think the practice of having students present and also just this sort of environment where all of the students come to class being ready for just an hour and a half long conversation, or even 3 hours in Monica's classes, just really allows for like a deeper understanding of the work and also of each other, and a lot more perspectives being brought in. Um, I've talked to a lot of my other friends who are in film and media studies programs, and usually they're like, yeah, our class is like 2 hours, but we spend one of the hours just watching the film, and then we kind of discuss it at the end. And I'm very grateful that the system at Reed is like you watch the film on your own, you take notes, you read about it, and then you come to class and you just talk about it for a really long time. I think it's great. And all the conferences are also very small. And so there's a lot of chance to speak, and also you really get to know the people that you're there with.
We have another question. If Grant, can you open again the link of Film and Media Studies webpage? Because one person wants to know about the events that we have organized so far. We have organized many events on film and media studies, but since we didn't have the major, we don't have the archive here. So now you go there, you see, you have to go to back to them, and then you have the events on the last one, yes. So if you go to past events, roll down. Past events here. Then you have, for instance, a series of documentaries that were Afro-American history documentaries that was organized by one colleague in the music department. There were many of them. Then there is the environmental studies that have also organized a series on eco-cinema. We organize sometimes Jim Holmes or Tony Moreno organize film and research workshops so students have a sense where to find the resources or how to navigate the library and the kind of films that we have at the library. And if, for instance, students are interested in films that we don't have, they can order, and Jim Holmes will find them in a couple of days. So we had a scholar coming from India, an Argentinian film scholar that came also in January. With Cynthia Wade, I was referring to her event before. She came and gave a 3 hours film production workshop. And this is the workshop that the local filmmaker came, a documentary in a day. So he really made students that took the workshop to make a short documentary in the time. And it was like 3 minutes, but in order for them to get a sense of how to use the equipment, and how to edit it and how to produce or to make sure the sound works. So yeah, if you go to the Film and Media Studies within the Reed College website, you will find all the information about events, faculty, courses, the requirements, and yeah, everything. And the study abroad that Catherine was referring to. We are updating the website, so Alberto del Rio, who is the person in charge of international relations at Reed, is now creating a long list of different film and media courses that you can take if you study abroad in different universities that we have an agreement. So that would be up, I think, soon in a couple of months or so. It's hundreds of courses. So that you can take these courses in Paris, in Germany, in Spain, in London, and we will have that information available soon.
And in terms of study abroad, it's a sort of very well-oiled system. If you take classes in one of our partner universities, all of the classes you take will transfer as 1 credit very smoothly. So that process is in place. And also it's important to know that all of your financial aid from Reed transfers to your study abroad program. So yeah, like in terms of financial considerations, being able to study abroad is like not foreclosed to people who are receiving funding from Reed. To the contrary, and also people will find that in most cases, you're studying abroad, the cost of living is going to be lower than in the U.S., especially East Coast, West Coast. So yeah, it's a win-win situation. It's a very popular option. A lot of students decide to go to spend a semester abroad, either sometimes it's the spring semester of their sophomore year, and more typically either the fall or spring semester of their junior year. Most students have to take a qual in the spring of their junior year, so they prefer to be at Reed to do that, but there's no obligation to qual while being at Reed. You can be in Paris and all of your essay prompts, and if you have an oral or need to discuss things with your professors, you can do that via video conference. So yeah, you can always call from abroad, but it is more popular for students to take that exam in the spring of their junior year while being at Reed. So Mar, for instance, you're going to Copenhagen in the
Yes.
fall.
Yeah, I am. I'm super excited. They have a program where it's like analysis of I guess European film history, and during it they take you on a bunch of trips to the places you're studying, like Prague, Vienna, I think Berlin, and also like different parts of Denmark, which is just an amazing opportunity. And it's exciting to be in a new place, especially a place with a rich film history like Scandinavia. I'm super excited.
Well, I think we have time for one more question, and so maybe I'll throw this out to all three of you. What is it that you love about Reed?
I really like the fact that as a faculty member here, I'm encouraged as a teacher and as a scholar. So I feel like I can bring a lot of enthusiasm in my classroom because I do a lot of my own research. I think that teaching is also about learning. So I am a never-ending student, and I really like how Reed promotes that, both in terms of, at the administrative level, but as at the level of the culture. So like talking to students about your work, or I've asked students, like I was working on something involving translations from Chinese, and I had two students in my classes who were like, "Oh yeah, we can help you with that." So I got funding for them, and they helped me out, and it was a really fun opportunity. And I accessed material that nobody else in the field had accessed or thought of accessing. So yeah, I just feel like the creation of spontaneous opportunities, and again, the deep, deep valuing of scholarship, artistic endeavor, intellectual commitment. I mean, Read is it's for kids who really love to think and talk, and nerd out in a shameless way, but in a really deeply also just full of sentiment and feeling, right? It's a way of living, and I love that about the Read community.
I cannot agree more with that. Yeah, I've been teaching in different research institutions, which I enjoy too. But Read is really special, and in terms that when I come to class, I know that most of the students have done the readings and usually are really complex, dense readings. But I value that they are not afraid of doing any kind of readings, and they would really want to learn. So it's challenging for the professor teaching this kind of materials, but at the same time you really learn from them, and they really bring ideas that maybe I haven't thought about it even if I have read the material several times. So it's really an enriching experience, besides having to do the scholarship and research, coming to class and apply your own questions, your research questions, your research interest with the students that really care about the materials. So I really enjoy teaching and Read, and I agree with you, Catherine. I learn a lot from them. And it's a always learning experience and never ending. So, yeah, I value that about it.
Yeah, and I think the students take that as well, like that sort of teacher scholar experience in their professional life. Mar, were you about to say that?
No,
Please go
I'm
for it.
just gonna give my own experience, but I totally agree with both of you.
But
Um,
I would like to hear what is your experience, yeah, as a student.
I love Read a lot. I love how I guess everything feels very intimate. Like the student to faculty ratio is really I don't know how to say this. There's a lot of faculty per student, I guess. And it really feels like in every class you're given the opportunity to really connect with your professor. And they give students a lot of time to talk to them and meet with them and discuss the material. Uh, and the classes themselves are very small, and so you're able to interact with the professor and also with each other and just um, talk the entire time. And I think, yeah, everyone here is very academically minded. Everyone's very dedicated to what they do and what they care about and what they're interested in. Um, all of my friends, we just sit around and kind of discuss our readings sometimes. And sometimes I'll come to dinner and my friends will just be like, gushing about whatever they learned today, or they'll be like, listen to what I just read in my reading. Isn't that insane? Um, and I don't know, it just makes learning fun and it makes you feel like you're getting to ask questions and you're being like academically rewarded in a sense just by learning a lot. And I've never been to a class where I didn't learn something from either my professor or the other students around me. Yeah, it's a really great setting.
With that, I want to offer a tremendous thank you to Catherine, Monica, and Mar for spending some time with us today and sharing some of their wonderful insights and experience. And a big thank you to you all for making some time and joining us as well. We'll have more sessions like this. There will be additional office hours coming up, so keep an eye out for those in addition to conversations with the college presidents, ways to learn more about like residential living and all kinds of other things that can be helpful for you as you get to know more about Reed. But with that, I want to offer you all a good wishes on the rest of your day. And thank you all so much for spending some time with us.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.